hardware, laptops, tablets. So we're Byte Software Services, right? That's who we are, that's what we do. Software services is in the title. But without a laptop, without a hardware device, you can't consume software. Talk to me, for the audience, talk to me. Why does this matter at the moment?
I think really, if you go all the way back to COVID days, was probably the big change in everyone moving towards the laptop side of things. So hardware's always had its part in the business, as you rightly say. I think we started seeing a lot more transition into laptops and mobile devices when COVID happened around about 5 years ago. And a lot of these devices are now coming to the end of their life, and people are looking at changing devices in the near future. It goes quite hand in hand with the transition from Windows 10 to Windows 11.
Yep.
We've got obviously Windows 10 end of life in October of this year, so a lot of businesses have a focus around it. But importantly, Copilot has really impacted how these devices are being used. So Copilot itself is only as good as the devices that it's on. So we've seen on a lot of the latest devices, they're all coming now with the MPU, which is a specified chip in order to focus on that AI. Why is it important? Simply, it improves your battery life and it improves the speed of performance of the AI tools that are being used. So businesses are really having a real focus on that. That'd be point one. Point two is, just like we've seen here at Bytes ourselves, we're getting more and more bodies back into the office now. Those days of the hybrid work, it's becoming a little bit less, and businesses that I talk to, they're encouraging people to get back into the business. They want a lot more collaboration. They want a lot more real-time faces together, working together in collaboration. And as such, we've started to see a big uplift in meeting room layouts, sounding, cameras, you name it. Anything that will make the transition a lot easier for people to discuss things in person. So it's becoming a lot more personal again, which is great, and certainly something that I love.
And I think it's fair to say that, I'll pick up on two things you said. Microsoft's kind of building a whole ecosystem around this, right? You know, we've got Microsoft Places coming through in phases this year, which is really driving people to, even if they're in the same office and they're not used to working with each other, it will drive them together in the same place, clues in the title. And that's going to be very powerful. But as you say, you need huddle spaces, you need laptops and tablets with great cameras and great audio in order to facilitate all of this stuff. So it's all really, really important. And going back to what you said about COVID and post-pandemic, you know, I remember stories from some of our customers where they literally had one of our customers in particular, where they had a warehouse with 5,000 laptops in it and a chain of people 2 meters apart, literally passing them out and throwing them at the back door at staff because they had an office-based community. Those laptops now, they're 5 years old. It's time for them to go, right? And as I said, we've now got this exciting range of new devices available. And obviously Microsoft's mantra is Copilot on every device. Is it worth kind of explaining a little bit about, I mean, you obviously talked about the MPU and better battery life and things like that, but why are these new devices kind of this new step change now? Why does it actually matter? Why are they actually different to the devices that have gone before?
I think previously the devices were simply just a tool, just to be used. So the reality is that most businesses were simply taking advantage of online services, maybe a CRM, maybe an accountancy tool like Sage, for example. We're using devices more and more now, every day. We're presenting more. We need more power. If you think about the introduction of Teams, Teams has changed the normal build spec of what was probably i5, 8 gig, 256 gig SSD. The standard norm now would probably be pushing i5, i7, 16 gig of RAM,
at least.
512 gig of SSD. Teams is a memory-hungry beast, so it needs it, it requires it to have it in place. So the world of using the devices for more is becoming more and more apparent. And let's be fair, every business that we speak to from a software perspective, but every business has the endpoint. Every business has these meeting room capabilities. And it's about understanding that these all have a place to do. Now, you touched on it before about it not just being the devices, it's the services as well. So what I love talking about with our customers is understanding that great part of what happens next. When it comes to providing hardware, it's a relatively simple process for anyone in the anyone in the IT game. It's buying from your distribution, it's allowing to have the bids and the special pricing aligned to your customer, and it's providing them on a next day delivery. That's fine, but it's what happens next and what impact that has on the IT team. So to touch on your point of what happened over the COVID, this is still happening in businesses now, where they're running an old SCCM model or an old gold imaging protocol. There's somebody's job in the IT team to pre-configure these laptops, some of which are taking between 4 and 5 hours per device to pre-configure and get into the hands of an end user. That's taking them away from not only the important jobs, but also the exciting jobs.
Yeah.
And so a lot of what I talk about is solving the problems in those areas, allowing devices to be pre-configured straight out the factory so that it can take away all of that time and all of that resource. Goes hand in hand with a JML process for joiners, movers and leavers. Big focus from businesses around it. How do we get the kit back? How can we re-sanitize that device? How can we make the most out of that product and that lifeline of that device? The majority of businesses will be looking to exchange devices out every 3 to 5 years. So again, we talk and we discuss the options, whether it's OPEX, whether it's CAPEX, whether you're looking to pay this on a monthly figure as opposed to just having a warehouse full of stock that's getting older and older by the day.
And as you say, the whole Microsoft estate kind of plays to that, and the ecosystem plays to that, because you know your software licensing is licensed monthly. You know, your Copilot is licensed monthly. Obviously, there's lots of different Copilot modules. There's development modules, productivity modules, sales modules. You know, they're all licensed monthly, and a lot of businesses are looking to wrap the hardware into that to provide almost a hardware as a subscription. And I mean, I know for a fact that we're really seeing almost. Yes, hardware is one way of consuming it, and as we said, one of Microsoft's biggest mantra is Copilot on every device. You talked about Teams and the fact that Teams has got bigger as a piece of software, but you now think that we've not only got Teams as a collaborative tool, we've got people drawing on the screen, we've got workers and agents sat there making the notes for us. You know, you've got image creation happening on the device. And all of this, we expect it to work if we're at our desk or if we're in a meeting pod, but if we're potentially on the other side of the world. And I think it's very easy to overlook how much power we're putting into the hands of people. And yeah, it needs higher hardware specs. But I think we have to say that hardware, for what you're getting, is you're probably paying a similar amount that you were 5 years ago, but you're getting a lot more hardware for the money now, right? I mean, a lot more hardware. It's just so much bigger. But as part of that, you know, with, again, you know, talking about the Microsoft suite, we've got Intune, Endpoint Manager and all the security tools that come with it. The fact that we can now deploy, yes, a brand new tablet, straight out the box to an end user, they sign in the first time, they get that out of box experience. It's all there, it all works, their software's deployed, their profile's deployed, it's all backed up in the cloud. But the fact that they could have a Surface tablet as a mobile device, but a very powerful Windows 365 instance for development or marketing or graphics manipulation using the same back end. I mean, I get excited about this stuff, right? But it's quite cool, right, that we can do all of this stuff. And we couldn't do this 5 years ago, could we?
If you think of it from a mobile device side of things, there's a new release of mobile device every year.
Yeah.
Everything's moving, everything's going along with the changes that are happening. And again, the devices way back in the day, so I was lucky enough to work in the mobile trade years and years back. We didn't have the type of processors in devices. We didn't have RAM in devices. And so everything goes with the changes and devices follow suit. And the more that we start to use them in a business, the more requirement is there for the devices that are there.
Yeah, and as you said, I think the thing businesses have to be extremely cognizant of is that, particularly the mobile devices, you know, your Googles and your Apples and people like that are providing an incredibly high level of functionality into consumer devices in terms of two-way communication, being able to just talk to your phone. We see the adverts, right? I've put salt in my cookies, or too much of this, or what do I make instead? And you've got Google Gemini just talking you through it, right? End users have an expectation. We have to provide that with business devices as well, right? Which And that's what this new strain of devices gives us, isn't it?
Copilot is starting to be used more and more in people's home lives as well as the business perspective. So when they start seeing the advantages that this has, it used to be way back in the day that we'd be talking, if we wanted an answer for something, we would go onto Google.
Yeah.
Now it's very much, let's go onto a Copilot side of things to find out how it's done. I was speaking to one of my colleagues the other day that has just planned her latest holiday and itinerary based purely off of Copilot. Here's where I'm going, here's what I want to see. What can I do in places here, here and here? And when we think that that mentality is constantly in people's mind when they're not at work, when they are at work and what it can be used for, the means are just endless. And we have so many case points of how Copilot is being used well. But to the original point, Copilot will only be as good as the devices that it's on.
Yeah.
So we can wax lyrical about how great Copilot is. But if the device that it's being used on is not up to standard, it's going to be slow, it's going to absolutely ruin the battery life on a device, and that's why there was this huge step up into these new devices, and why businesses are looking at them really strongly for probably, I would say, the first time in a good 5 years.
Yeah, and actually there's another element to that which I think goes unsaid in these modern devices, which is at the end of the day, we know more now than ever that the Earth has a finite amount of resources left, right? These mobile devices have batteries that will only survive a certain number of recharge cycles. The fact that these new breed of devices use much less power means that the batteries will last longer, right? Because a battery lasts twice as long. That means you charge it the same number of times, but you can get twice the lifetime out of that device. And while you are using it, it's using less power. Less power equals less carbon dioxide emissions, less fossil fuel emissions. I mean, yes, we're moving to renewables, right? But the fact that these devices are more powerful, will last longer, need less consumables to be maintained, if you like, over their life cycle. I really do think businesses aren't taking enough account of that at the moment in terms of the overall total cost of ownership.
Absolutely. It's a great point, and it's something that I think some are talking about, but it could be so much more.
Yeah.
And this is why when we look at all of the businesses, Microsoft Surface in particular, so many discussions that I have with them now is about what they're doing for these latest devices, even the packaging that it comes in, how many recycled goods are. And a lot of the businesses that I talk to from an RFP side of things, they are focused on how much of that green element that they can implement into what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so it allows me to have so much more creative conversations with businesses, which is what I love, gaining that understanding of where a business is and where the business is trying to get to, instead of, here's your device, we'll speak again in 5 years' time.
Yeah, and I think, as you say, it's such a tipping point right now. And I think this is what we'd really want to get across today to anybody who's watching this and to our customers. Those devices that were bought in a hurry in COVID, for people that maybe had never had laptops before, they're due for replacement. Don't just replace them with what you had before. Look around, let's engage and have a conversation about the best device to provide the best end user experience, to provide the most business impact, because there's a fantastic choice of modern devices out there, isn't there?
There's so many, and so many different flavours and so many different versions, that it's understanding what a customer's using, what the use cases are for. There's always a blend, so you'll have some base users, you'll have some high-end users like you discussed earlier. You may have some full designers that need full-on graphics cards and high-end processing power. And so there are so many different variations that you can look at before you even start to understand the problems that a business is facing in the delivery of these devices as well. So it allows this to be a very exciting part, and certainly a journey that I've loved being at since being here at Bytes.
I mean, I'm obviously the CTO of Bytes. I've always been passionate about technology, but there's never been a more exciting time to get into end user devices and all that kind of stuff. So no, it's fascinating.